Welcome back to MLive's Dungeon of Doom podcast. I am Ben Raven. He is Kory Woods. Kory, how you doing?
I cannot complain. I am so good.
Yeah, I'd love to hear that. Good stuff going on. Anything worth sharing?
Well, yesterday ended my 21-day fast at church, so that means I got to go back to drinking coffee.
There you go.
So I know you guys can't see this, but I'm holding a coffee cup up to Ben, so had a great morning.
Oh, that's good stuff. I'm doing pretty good up here too. I'm up in Cadillac visiting my parents for the week. Just kind of hanging out through the weekend, that time of year where we're still working, but can kind of do it from wherever. So it's a beautiful time of the year.
Oh, yeah. Is there a lot of snow up there in Cadillac?
Oh, my God. It has not stopped. It's about the same temperature-wise as Detroit. So much more snow. It has not stopped since we got here. Unbelievable. Went to Traverse City and saw a movie and took my mom out to lunch yesterday, and it was like, dude, there's like two feet of snow on the ground up here. What the hell are we doing? No, it's been nice to get up here. Obviously, didn't get up here for Thanksgiving or Christmas, so nice to get a week up here. But we're back with a podcast. Took the week off last week. Just felt like a good week to take off. I was like, all right, here's the topics if we did a podcast today. You know what? I think we could all do those next week. Get a couple mailbag questions and do a little pod before the Super Bowl and before the full off-season swing. Believe it or not, in 18 days, we will be in Indianapolis for the Combine, so that is coming up right around the corner. We got to start doing previews for that before we know it. But we're going to start today's show because I put out a call on Blue Sky for questions. Like I said, we're not doing full-on mailbags, but we will take some questions and got some good ones. So we're going to open with some questions. I haven't done this in a little bit, but we're going to start with our Doomer of the week, and that's from Big Daddy Drix on Blue Sky. He always sends questions in. He's got a good one this week. Got a couple funny responses, too. He wants to know, what position are the Lions going to address lightly in the offseason that will make everyone go, what? Why didn't you do more? He says, my bet is cornerback. And then Master of Puppets replied, defensive end, because we got Hutch and no team has more than one capable defensive end. So what position group do you think the Lions will lightly address this offseason that will make everyone freak out?
I would probably say it's going to be defensive end. I gotta agree with that. I think that I just, for some reason, I think that Brad Holmes is going to just scan the landscape of the draft, not address it there, but then look towards free agency and try to get another reclamation project. And the reason I say that is because his end of season presser did not give me too much confidence that he's going to change too much of his ethos. And I'm of the I got to see it to believe it type of mindset. Until you show me that you can operate differently, I'm going to assume that you're just going to go as planned. Now, that doesn't mean I think he's going to bring back somebody like Marcus Davenport, but it wouldn't shock me if he went in that same type of pool for a player, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think Brad literally said we're going to take the same approach. And that doesn't mean they're going to ignore it. That just means they're not going to push the issue. They're not going to draft someone they have questions about fit. They're not going to draft someone they aren't in love with. If the right edge defender isn't where they're picking or in their price range in free agency, they're just going to move on. I do think it's edge too. I like the guess of cornerback. That's an interesting one just because as we've started doing some mock draft roundups and draft talk, there have been a couple cornerbacks linked to the Lions in the first round. And I don't see that happening, but I do see some depth coming in just because you don't know what Rakestraw is. You got to figure out the Robertson and Yassine situations. But yeah, that was a really good question, but I think it's going to be edge too. And I'll take that question just to go into the first planned topic that we had, and then we'll do a couple more questions. But Levi Onwuzurike and Josh Paschal, thanks to some rarely used provisions in the CBA, are back on the roster for 2026. So Onwuzurike, potential big end, interior defensive lineman, he's back on the roster. Paschal, former second-round pick, who's kind of been positionless and never really sparked, is back on the roster, though. So, there's two guys for the defensive line. I'll just sum it up like this. You guys don't need the full reading of Article 20, Section B, Paragraph 4, or something like that. But with their specific injured lists and the fact that it was the final year of their contract. They never played this season. They never came off those injured lists. So their contract gets told to the next season. So that is why Levi and Josh are back on the roster for next year. Honestly, those two names being back doesn't move the needle too much because they're oft injured, hard to depend on guys. But with those two guys back, I could definitely see a more casual approach, or a more, I won't even say casual, I'll just say a similar approach to edge defender and the defensive line that they've taken in recent years.
Yeah, I just think that, granted, they're on the roster for next season. I just think it's time to cut bait with them, in my opinion. See what you can do to move on from them, whether just cutting them or
Yeah.
salvaging something from them, because they have not been consistent contributors over their time in Detroit. And we keep talking about this team has a window, this team has a window. Well, why continue to invest in guys that have not proven to be available? The best ability is availability, and I just think that if you, even with this provision, if you go into this season with both of them, both of them on there, I just don't understand the mindset. It would seem to me as a pretty lazy move, regardless of how they benefit from it.
Yeah, I'm cool with Levi because he has been impactful when healthy and available. It's just been few and far between, unfortunately, for him. The Pascal thing, I think he's going to have to be fighting for a spot, like you kind of alluded to there. So, yeah, and I mean, it's going to be hard to pour those top draft, top free agent resources into anything that's not the offensive line. So I think that plays into it too. We'll go on to our second question. Frequent caller, John 16. Do you believe Alex Anzalone is going to come back, or have a feeling he's gone? If he's gone, do you trust Derek Barnes in a bigger role? I know he wasn't bad, but didn't seem to play up to the contract he signed. I'm honestly, and I'm not trying to cop out of this one, I'm 50-50 on Anzalone. I would bring him back if you're asking me. Like, I would just figure it out, make him happy, bring him back. That defense is better when he's on the field. But I'm truly 50-50 on that, because I could see someone giving him a deal with maybe an extra year or two on there, some solid money. He's got some connections around the league. I mean, Aaron Glenn loves him some Alex Anzalone too. But I'm 50-50. If it were up to me, I would bring Anzalone back. And the second part of that question about Derek Barnes, Barnes played Sam this year. He didn't really do much rushing the passer, especially the final 9, 10, 11 weeks or so. I'd be really curious just to see who would take over Anzalone's will spot, just because that's not I mean, you're covering guys. That's a different position than Sam, but Barnes didn't really click to his contract value at Sam, so maybe they try him at will if Anzalone doesn't come back. I don't know. I would find a way to bring Anzalone back, but as I said, I'm 50-50 on that. Just because you don't need to create another need, man. You don't need to create another need, and you create another need if Alex Anzalone ain't here. My voice started tapering off at the end there.
I would say this: if it comes down to the Lions and another contender offers him a similar or slightly better deal, I would see Anzalone exiting, just because of, maybe he might feel that he may have a better opportunity to, I guess you can say, be more appreciated a little bit, and a change of scenery, just off of how he had to really fight for his money in Detroit. But if it's between the Lions and the Jets, I
Yeah,
think
easy.
he's coming back. I just, as much as AG loves him, as much money as they could probably offer him, I just do not see him going to that dumpster fire.
Yeah. I think it's going to come down to years to him, long term stability or medium term stability at this stage of his career for him. I think if somebody offers him 2 or 3 years and the Lions are only coming with 1 or 2, if he's getting 3, then that might be the play for him. I really believe, I've covered Anzalone for his entire time here in Detroit. I feel like I have I feel like I'm used to him and know him and have talked to him a lot. I feel like I believe him when he says he wants to finish his career in Detroit. Not that he's ready to hang him up or anything, but that's him saying, I want to be here and only here. So the ball is in Anzalone's court, but I really do believe that ball is more in Detroit's court, because if they came to him a legit offer, I think he would take it. And as I said, that defense is better. I've said it a million times. That defense is so much better with him on the field. He is their best coverage linebacker. He allowed them to live in base defense this year with all those snaps he played in the slot. Don't create another need.
No.
Do some cap gymnastics if you got to. Don't create another need though. Oh, let's see here. We got a couple quick fire questions I think we can answer pretty quickly. Spencer B wants to know, is reworking the offensive line the top priority this offseason, or is the defensive backfield more pressing? Offensive line for me.
Offensive line. I
Yeah.
think there are things that they can do to just fix those gaps and fix those holes for the temporary, but you cannot go back into this season with the offensive line the way it is, especially if you're going to be running the scheme that Drew Petzing is trying to bring in Detroit. So yeah, can't do
Yeah.
it.
I mean, if Decker had already announced he was coming back, I would still say offensive line, just to
Hmm.
put it like that. I get the secondary questions with Joseph's knee, with Branch's Achilles, but they got Arnold, they got Reed. Rakestraw's going to have to do something before long. He's got to stay healthy. We'll see what happens. I think Robertson and Yasin, I could see both those guys coming back too, but obviously safety is concerning some people. I think they'll add some depth at safety, but I really do think they believe that Branch and Joseph will be Branch and Joseph again, whenever that is. So, good question there. Quick fire there. Do, 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 do. Nate B. Last season didn't seem to be the best set of road food cities. It was all right. I get why he says that. My best meal on the road this year. That's a good question. We did some good spots though. There were some good spots. Cincinnati was the most surprising, enjoyable city of the year for me on the road. I think Tigers playing in the playoffs Saturday night had a great spot at Taste of Belgium, but LA is hard to beat for me just because the sushi and the tacos and
Oh
everything's so fresh
yeah.
up there. Says, which road game am I most looking forward to for local cuisine next year? That's kind of an easy answer for me. I'll be staying in Miami Beach.
Woo-hoo.
And I know that spot pretty
Please,
well.
Josh, if you're
Yeah.
to our supervisor, if you're listening, if there are any other road games I can go to outside of the division, just get me to either Miami, Atlanta, or Charlotte, please. That's all I
I
ask.
was gonna say, yeah. Hey, Atlanta. Nolan Bianchi and I were down for the preseason game in August, and we ate at the same restaurant twice. It was so good in Atlanta. I forget exactly. I think it was called Flavor Rich. Unbelievable. Psyched to go back there. But I was just gonna say, for you trying to go to Miami, I would offer a package deal of Green Bay and Minnesota for Miami.
Oh man, what? Yes, I do not. Yes, yes, I would take that.
I know. I'm also excited for Buffalo next year. You might be in the cards for that one.
Woo.
That's a shorter trip, and I think it'll be the new stadium next year. But I'm excited because I've spent a lot of time in Canada, spent a lot of times in the state of New York, all around too. But I've never spent time in Buffalo. We're gonna do the full wing tour. We're gonna have to hit up Ty Dunn for recommendations. Greg with Lions PR is going to be a hook up there too. But we did that in Philly this year where we did like 4 or 5 different cheesesteaks. Great experience. Cheesesteak was tough to do that with, but Buffalo the wings next year. I'm very excited for that. Fun question there. We got one more question here. Welcome back from vacation. Yeah, we just took a week off from the podcast. We just been killing. He says, I know this is a dumb question, but I keep hearing it from the Lions people I speak with up here in northern lower Michigan. Was Ben Johnson the coach that had them winning, or was Dan Campbell the man? Who is going to have the better chance at long-term success? Ooh, that's an interesting question. I think I'm still Dan Campbell is the answer to both of those questions. I'm never taking anything away that Ben Johnson did in Detroit. Huge asset. Obviously, the drop off this year in the first year without him. But I even still think Dan Campbell is the most set up for long term success just because of all the cornerstone pieces. And I believe it was Bill Barnwell that wrote like the top, you wrote the post for us, but like the top coaching hires the last 5 years. He had a line in there for Dan Campbell is like, of all the NFL coaches, if you could pick one coach you think would still be coaching the same team 15 years from now, it would be Dan Campbell. And I 100% agree with that. I think you're talking from the front office to the roster to his kind of stature in the city and with the franchise and players around the league. I think Dan is still the man.
I think that Ben Johnson had a key part in Detroit's success because he knew how to run Dan Campbell's offense, to me, 1,000 times better than John Morton did. And I believe that is with, I believe that as long as Drew Petzing can go ahead and get things going on, then he's able to articulate and get things out the way that Dan wants it. You will then start to see like, okay, yeah, this is Campbell's offense, and he'll start to get that credit. I think with Ben Johnson, it's not taking anything away from him. I think his situation in Chicago, I think they have the potential to be good, but I see them taking a step back this season. There's more tape on Caleb Williams now, and even though they made the playoffs, if you look at his metrics this season, they were not great. And I just think concerned about them long term about how good they'll be, and now they're going to have the first place schedule. So
Yes.
I think long term, I think Dan is going to be set up for more success, and I think Dan's going to be set up for a bounce back year this coming season. Whereas I can see the Bears taking a slip.
Yeah, I think Ben is still very well set up for long term success. The quarterback Caleb does seem to just continually getting better, and he's got that clutch gene. Their offensive line was retooled and so much better this year. The young wide receivers, the young tight ends. I mean, he set up well. And the thing Ben did here in Detroit was like he made Dan Campbell's offense his own. And what I mean is like
Yeah.
he made it Ben Johnson's offense by the time his time was done here in Detroit. And I mean, it was Dan Campbell that gave him that runway, the bones to pick with, the roster, all that stuff. But Ben, I mean, is just such a creative, just psychotic attention to detail, fixing
Mhm.
everything, getting everything perfect type coach. That I mean, oh man, I mean, that offense is going to be fascinating to watch, just as with him as the head coach and how it continues to develop. But what a first year for Ben! But I am still going to give the edge to Dan Campbell, just because I mean, we
Yeah.
got 5 years of the pudding, and the Bears, the Bears are the Bears, a historic franchise, but they've been pretty messy for most of my living life, including yours.
Very
Oh,
much so. So
yeah.
yeah, that's why I'm like, yeah, I'm sticking with that. I think they're gonna take a step back, but I still think Ben is gonna be set up for good.
Oh, the
Yeah,
first place
yeah,
schedule is gonna kick them
yeah.
around.
I still
Yeah.
think Ben is gonna be set up for a good situation for there for long. But this year, I think next year is gonna be a little bit. I think next year is gonna be a rude awakening for them.
Yeah, and we'll take that last question there. Thanks for all the questions, guys. And we we did not record last week, so we did not have a Mike Kafka section. The Lions are adding Mike Kafka as a high-ranking uh, offensive coach. We'll see what role that is. So we'll see there. But like the thing I love the most about the addition of Mike Kafka to join Drew Petzing's offensive staff is that it's two guys who have not previously worked with Dan Campbell, two guys who comes from different trees, schemes, strengths, and all that. It's two fresh. That's what we were talking about when we were talking about the OC search. It's two experienced play caller fresh eyes. It's two different schemes, new flavors, and they're going to come under the house of collaboration that Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell have built here. And I just really like the different outside voices. Like the thing we liked about Morton was the familiarity. We felt like,
Hmm.
hey, you don't
Hmm.
want to change this offense. Oh my God, why would you want to change this offense? And then you saw kind of what happened when you just kind of tried to run someone else's offense without that guy there, Ben Johnson. So I really like the idea. Petzing is the play caller, the offensive coordinator, and Kafka, who's been an interim head coach, who's been a play caller for multiple seasons, who's Petzing seems to specialize in the running game, jumbo sets, tight ends, all that stuff. It's hard to kind of glean the passing stuff just because Kyler Murray is a weird quarterback and he's had a weird couple of years. And then this year they were just ravaged by injuries. But just, and I got asked this by the guys on the All Grit podcast yesterday. Shout out to the Grand Rapids guys. Is there such a thing as too many cooks in the kitchen? I'm curious what your response is. My response was that is a thing, yes, but not when you have a coach like Dan Campbell who controls the room. Who, when you walk into a room, you know who the head tribal chief is in charge, the one tribal chief. Like it's his show. So I think with the Lions setup and their culture of collaboration and how Dan Campbell has managed his staff and this franchise under Brad Holmes and all those guys, this is a positive thing. Those different voices, those guys who are experienced play callers, different backgrounds, and all that. That's a good thing with a head coach like Dan Campbell. It could be a bad thing with a younger, less inexperienced head coach and all that stuff. But with Dan Campbell, I fully believe it's a good thing because those voices are going to be heard. There's going to be one clear voice and decision at the end of the day. So I think too many cooks in the kitchen exists, but not when you have a head coach like Dan Campbell. That powers that. That's a superpower.
Well, I think the Kafka edition is great. just because of how well regarded he is around the league. But I don't buy too much into the cooks in the kitchen thing, and here's why. Kafka was with the Kansas City Chiefs, and he was their QB coach, and then he was their passing game coordinator. So he ended up holding both titles. There were a lot of cooks in that kitchen with Kafka, Eric Bieniemy, and Andy Reid, and that produced a Super Bowl
Even
and
more,
stuff.
yeah.
And so, I
Yeah.
mean, heck, if you're talking about just off of a list of accolades, one of Patrick Mahomes' best seasons, 2018, which was like his first real season as a full time starter. I mean, what offensive player of the year, Pro Bowl, All Pro, led the league in passing touchdowns. Oh yeah, MVP. So I mean, I don't buy into it too much because just like you said, at the end of the day, it's Dan Campbell. He's a great manager of his staff, of personality, and even personalities. I mean, even just not that it's directly tied to it, but just the other day, when Carlton Davis was talking about the Lions, he just said that they're he was still speaks fondly of them because they're no BS when it comes down to things. Everything is just straightforward. So as long as you have Campbell in place, I don't think there can be too many cooks in the kitchen. I think that he's going to have a. I think he's going to have a. I mean, he's the head coach, so of course he's going to have a big voice on this. But I think he's going to really be weaving this and massaging this more than normal because he knows that this season is really important. So he's gonna there we go. He's gonna thread that needle with this offense is how he needs to. That's what I was looking for.
And I think it shows a lot of growth too, because I'm not saying John Morton was a yes man. That is not what I'm saying at all. But Campbell went back to the familiar well. He went back to the Sean Payton tree. He went back to, all right, this guy speaks specifically my language and only my language, and I like that because things are going so well here. Nope, you got two voices you've never worked with before. You've got two voices, one who's been an interim coach. Both have been a play caller for 3 seasons. So I think it's great. Kafka, yet another former NFL quarterback on the roster, on the coaching staff roster. Mark Brunell, Bruce Gradkowski, Marcus Tuiasosopo. A lot of quarterbacks in that offensive room too. And I'm really curious to see what Kafka's role ends up being when the coaching staff is set. But like that's a good addition for a Jared Goff, especially
Yeah.
with a new offensive coordinator. I love it. I think it's great. I think that if Kafka were announced as the offensive coordinator when Petzing was, there would have been so much less of that kind of social media just dumpster
Yeah.
fire stuff. So look at it that way. That's a great situation, and I think it speaks great about Dan Campbell, Drew Petzing, that offense and that culture in Detroit, that Kafka would be willing to take that position because he was interviewing for several jobs. So
Yeah. And I read he interviewed for the Lions OC job too.
exactly. Yeah. So great, great stuff there. I think that's great. And I think that really eased a lot of concerns too, because it was like, oh, all right. Because after people settled down about Petzing, then the Kafka news hit. So that's good stuff. All good stuff. Let's briefly cover some chatter from Super Bowl Media Week. Then we'll get into our awards since NFL Honors is tonight. This is Thursday, February 5th. We'll do our awards for MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Rookie of the Year, and Most Improved. Tonight, the awards show is on. You'll be listening to this either as it's happening or it's already done. But Hutchinson is up for DPOY. Sorry, that's basically already gone to Myles Garrett, who just had one of the best
Yeah.
seasons in NFL history, if not the best. And then comeback player of the year, Christian McCaffrey seems like the heavy favorite for comeback player of the year. And then Penei Sewell's up for protector of the year. And honestly, I kind of expect him to win it.
Yeah. I think Panay is going to be a shoe in for protector of the year. As far as the comeback player of the year, I would say this. I think Aiden has a puncher's chance. I think
Absolutely.
I think it's possible he get it, but it's not probable.
No, exactly. I mean, 14 and a half sacks, league leading 100 pressures, 4 forced fumbles, and interception, 35 quarterback hits. There's that sports writer brain remembering the PFR page. Unbelievable. So he's got a chance, but it really does seem like it's expected to go to McCaffrey, which is interesting because McCaffrey kind of, I mean, a great year, but a weird year. Like just yards per carry stuff. But yeah, chatter from Super Bowl Media Week. Not a ton of juice, not a ton of meat on the bone concerning the Lions. Jared Goff praised Petzing and all that stuff. Of course, he's going to praise the hire. What else is he going to do? But I do like that he talked about how versatile of an offensive mind he think Petzing is, how much say he had on the process, how they're going to work together, how some terminology might change. I just loved that, the versatility, because that's what they need. They needed fresh eyes, they needed new takes, but like nothing jarring there. The quarterback said what he's going to say, but I did take away the fact that they have spoken. They will continue to work on the offense together. It's going to be everything we thought it was going to be. Goff having a hand on that offense as it should be, as he's earned.
I did I had, a little bit of a different takeaway. I went back because I saw what Goff said about, Petzing, and I said, "Okay, wait a minute. I remember him speaking about Morton around the same time last year. Let me just go back and look at that."
Yeah, do it.
And if you compare what he said about Morton compared to what he said about Petzing, it seems like there's at least if I'm just reading them at face value,
Yeah, yeah,
there
yeah.
appeared to be more excitement about the Petzing hire than the Morton one. It was just like Morton was just like, you know, I think somebody commented on my post said related it to like the chalk and the cheese theory. So I think it's just like like okay, well Morton, yeah, okay, I know this guy. It could possibly work. Um, let's see what happens. Whereas with Petzing, hey, I don't know who this guy is. I did some research. Everything I'm hearing sounds great. Let's give it a try. I'm hype. So that's the kind
Yeah.
of the read I got between the two because I mean this is back-to-back years. Goff was speaking about his new OC at the Pro Bowl, and it just it's just the way he spoke about both was to me was a bit night and day.
The Pro Bowl games, those happened this week.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
I had a hard time watching. I Let me just get this off the I fully understand why they aren't playing a full speed, full contact football game anymore. I don't think you can ask that. I don't know, man. What's your take? Because I found that game. Maybe it was the effort. Maybe it's the setup. Maybe they're not used to it yet. I found that the Pro Bowl games thing extremely just kind of snoozy.
Here's where I'm at with it. They're not going to play the game anymore for obvious reasons,
Nor should they. Nor should they.
nor should they. The games don't get it. What I think they should do is just scrap the Pro Bowl in total and just consider the Pro Bowl as just a list that you make. You're honored as a Pro Bowler. I mean, you or maybe kind of rename or reclassify the Pro Bowl because I mean, if you're not going to play in the game, if you're not going to do any games, maybe make it some kind of other list because I mean, all pro is going to be voted by the media. It is what it is, but maybe kind of like just switch up the listing or the naming of the list because the games I just don't just scrap it. It's not entertaining. It's not.
No, it's not. I'd rather see them bring back MTV Rock and Jock and do like an all NBA or NFL All Star basketball game or something. I don't know, man. I like I said, they're never going to go back to the full contact, full speed game. But like the Pro Bowl has changed so much. It used to be after the Super Bowl, I believe, in Hawaii, and now it's on a Tuesday night in Santa Clara at 9 p.m. for a flag football. It's just weird. I know they're trying. I hope they continue trying, is what I say, because I do not feel like this is the final answer. I don't even want to talk about the Pro Bowl games. It feels so. It's crazy how it feels so irrelevant now. I kind of do agree with you. Just like name an all star list and then do the AP All Pros too.
Hey,
Just
you know what? In honor of one of the great coaches of the game, just scrap the Pro Bowl altogether and just make the All Madden list a thing again.
Yeah, perfect. I love it even more. What was the other chatter from Super Bowl Media Week? Oh yeah, David Montgomery. You wrote that up yesterday. I only saw snippets of that interview. What was the takeaway on David Montgomery's interview? I believe it was on Good Morning Football, right, or NFL
Yeah,
Network or something.
so it was with Chris Sims Unbutton on
Oh,
NBC
NBC
Sport.
Sports. Then, oh, my bad.
Yeah, no problem. And basically, the two things that stuck out from that interview was that he spoke with Drew Petzing. They've already had a conversation, and he's basically been reassured about his role in the offense, and he's excited to go ahead and get to work, and feels like he's just ready to go. The other thing was about the backfield combination of him and Jahmyr Gibbs. They asked him like, how did it feel to kind of take a backseat to Gibbs and deal with him stealing your carries and whatnot. And Montgomery immediately pushed back on the framing of that question. He was just basically like, "Look, it's good to have, a backfield where you have two dynamic guys." And you know, he was basically, like he always is supportive of Gibbs. He said, while this is the first time he was able to play all 17 games, and he felt healthy and would have liked to contribute more.
Yeah.
But he said, but at the same time, he's still fully healthy, and he's going to be just as healthy, if not more, going into the next season. So where there was a lot of cryptic talk about whether he wanted to leave Detroit or not, everything he said kind of points towards, I'm here. I'm excited about next season. And he did mention, we're going to win the Super Bowl. And he said it's up there, and he said he didn't really have an answer for why the season went the way it did. He said that's a Brad and Dan question. And he just feels that they're going to go ahead and do what is necessary to rebuild the team, or get the necessary pieces for them to go over the top. So everything from David Montgomery in that little interview from that early portion pointed towards, he's here and he's looking toward the future.
Yeah. I said it when Petzing got hired. I do like to hear David talking about that, because if I were Drew Petzing, I'd be like, hey, screw trading David Montgomery. You're not going to get enough for him anyway. He's going to do more here. Like, seriously, David Montgomery's extension has not kicked in yet. He is under full team control. The Lions do not, and this is me talking, nor should they move him. You hire Drew Petzing, you need two backs. You need that flavor
Hmm.
change. You need those two guys. And if I'm David Montgomery, I want to be here too. I want to be here too because this is a contender. I want to be here too because the head coach freaking loves you. Like, I know this year was weird, but I just think fixing the offensive line, getting a new run game look in there from Petzing and those different looks, that's going to be very good for Gibbs. That's going to be very good for David Montgomery. Even if he stays in that 8 to 12 carry a game range, man, he they need him. He needs them. I really believe that. If it's another weird year, then you can figure this out. But honestly, extension hasn't kicked in yet. He's under team control. You got this OC who's known for his awesome, creative, impressive 2023, 2024 rushing attacks. Man, having a Gibbs and having a Montgomery ready to go on those looks, that'd be a good thing. So that's interesting to hear. I know Brad talked about doing what's best for the player. I think what's best for the team and the player is him staying in Detroit. I think he's got a real opportunity.
Yeah.
Never going to be that 1A with Gibbs. Like, that's given. Gibbs is going to get all the touches and more, but there's still room for David Montgomery here. It's just how Petzing and the offensive staff figure out, once again, how to feed all those mouths, because David Montgomery is one of those mouths.
Yeah, here just to give so you guys can hear, if you guys did not hear or see what David Montgomery said, here was the exact quote when he was when referencing his conversation with Petzing. He was very intentional about what messages he was getting across. He wants to reassure me, to let me know he wants me to be a part of it. And yeah, I'm excited to see what's next and see what happens now. But yeah, I think he's great for it.
Yeah. Yeah, there we go. I think two new coaches with new takes is good for David too. They got to figure out ways to get him involved, and two outside eyes might be the best way to do that. But
Absolutely.
let's get into our awards. NFL Honors is tonight, but we're going to do our Dungeon of Doom awards for the Lions here right now.
Oh yeah, I got mine right here. It's pulled up on the side.
Beautiful. Me too. We're going to start with most valuable player. Had a hell of a time with this one. I ended up going with Penei Sewell. I think if you take him off of that offensive line, this is like a 6-win team this season. What he did holding down that right tackle spot with a rookie next to him, with all the changes, with all the peaks and valleys, Penei Sewell, heck of a year. Highest graded PFF offensive lineman, his best pass blocking year of all time. Only allowed 2 sacks. I expect him to win Protector of the Year tonight. We'll see how that holds up. He's a first team All Pro. MVP Penei Sewell for being the glue that tried to hold the wall together.
Panay is not a bad pick at all. That is a great one. I went with Jared Goff. But I
Yeah,
just so
that's my second.
yeah, so
Yeah,
just getting this out the way, and I've said it all season. I want to, steal some thunder from my cousin Bruce. Just each year, golf is just going to have that one inexplicably bad game that you just like, that just makes you scratch your head. And obviously, we know that one was against the Vikings on Christmas Day. But aside from that, the breakdowns in the offensive line, the changes of the play calling. I mean, he finished second in passing yards, second in TDs, threw single digit picks and completed 68% of his passes. I mean, and while people get on him for not being the most mobile quarterback, some of those mobile quarterbacks that people covered, they did not finish the season. They did not play all 17 games. Goff did, and he took some shots along the way. So he's tough as nails. And I think that if you pull him off of this team this season, like
Yeah. Oh
let's just
god.
say if Goff went down at any point in the season, the Lions would not have finished with the winning record. So I just think that for he does not get enough credit for how valuable he is to this team. And I think that if you were like to try to trade him, you would probably have several, I would say at least 10, 12, maybe 10, 12 teams, maybe more. I'm just going to go on the low end, 10, 12 teams that will be lining up the Lions door to, to acquire him. So I think that he's the MVP because you pull this guy off. It's off the rails.
Yep. Those were the two options to me, so I'm glad we hit both of them. Offensive player of the year. Had a couple options here. I went with Jahmyr Gibbs. 1,200 rushing yards, 13 touchdowns, career highs, 77 catches, 616 yards, 5 touchdowns. Won them the Giants game. Was a freak in the Washington and Tampa games. Just, I don't know. Just Gibbs is that OPOY to me. Just the year he had, how he takes over games. He's unbelievable, and I'm so excited to see what he does with Petzing and a remade offensive line to the way he likes, because he's got so much more room to grow and just continue to get better and better. I mean, I think we're really going to be talking about the best running back league in the best running back in the league here very, very, very soon.
I went with the guy that Dan Campbell said that you cannot take for granted, and that was Amon-Ra St. Brown. Finished the season
Yeah.
top 5 in receptions, top 5 in receiving TDs, and top 5 in yards per game. Bit of a down year for him as far as his catch percentage. That was 68%, lowest of his career. But that said, he's in a down year. He still turned in 117 receptions and 1,400 receiving
Yeah.
yards and 11 TDs. So if you get that in a down year, I mean, that's amazing. He's a guy that you can always he's a guy that no matter what is going on, he did have some issues with his hands, with his wrist and stuff this year, but no matter what is going on, when the Lions need him most, he shows up, shows out. And this is the one thing that when I was, doing this that kind of took me aback. After based on what he did this season, that now puts him third in franchise history in receptions and receiving TDs, and his catch percentage all time right now is higher than Calvin Johnson and Herman Moore.
That's wild. We're locked in because that was the name I erased to put Gibbs in there. So we're locked in. Those felt like the two options to me too. I love it. Defensive player of the year. Super curious to see if we're split on this one. I'm going with Jack Campbell. Unbelievable season taking over the green dot. Most snaps on the defense. First team All Pro. Pro Bowler. 176 tackles. 5 sacks. 3 forced fumbled. 4 pass breakups, 9 tackles for loss, 5 quarterback hits. Jack Campbell is one of the league's best linebackers, just like that. He is the leader of this defense moving forward, and I just think he's going to continue to get better too, because he's got a little room to grow in pass protection or pass coverage. See what happens with Anzalone there and how his role shifts or anything like that. But just Jack Campbell to me, all the snaps he played, all the plays he made. I think about Baltimore. I think about those sacks. I just think about him being the cleaner. Every other play it felt like this year. I went with Jack Campbell, DPOY, Aiden Hutchinson, obviously right up there. But I look at the year that Jack Campbell had, and it was like, holy crap. I don't know if I've seen year 1 to year 3 growth truly take place like that with any player I've covered in my now going on 8 seasons on this beat.
We have a tie.
There
We
we
are on
go.
the same page. I did put Jack Campbell as well. I think you hit a lot of it on the head. I'm just going to just add a few things so we can go ahead and get on to the next one, because you just said that perfectly. I'm just going to add this. His 176 tackles was second in the NFL. He had 5 sacks to go along with it. He was the only linebacker in the NFL to log at least 130 tackles and 5 sacks this season. And along with Rams linebacker Nate Landman. They are the only two linebackers this season to have at least 3 forced fumbles and 2 fumble recoveries. So, I mean, just adding on to what you already said, this is Jack Campbell's defense. Dan Campbell said it from the beginning of the season, and he did not make his coach look like a fool. He went out there and was the he went out there and was the heartbeat of it. And again, you can argue he is either the one or two best linebacker in the NFL right now. And I the scary thing about it is he's not even in his prime.
Yep. I love watching linebackers. I think linebackers and tight ends are my two personal favorite positions to watch. Just I always dreamed of being a middle linebacker, but I was always just a little too beefy. And just I deeply enjoy watching Jack Campbell play football, the way he plays. It's he's such a throwback soul in there. It's such a perfect Dan Campbell fit to lead his defense. I love it. We're locked in there. Rookie of the year. I'll let you lead off rookie of the year. What do you got, Kory?
So I want to. I had a feeling. I'm like, you know what? I think I know where Ben might be going with this one. So I'm just gonna go opposite for the sake of being a contrarian. I went with Tyleek Williams. And the reason I went with it is just like I thought for one second, I thought about how great Tate Ratledge has been as a rookie on the line and everything that he's done. And then I thought about the tail end production by Isaac Tesla, even though it wasn't really a lot of numbers, but just his role ascending in the offense and how he could be for the future. But then I look at Ty Leak and just that his I think PFF ranked him sixth amongst interior rookie defenders this year. And his pass rush grade was a 69.1. That was 35th out of all defensive linemen this year. I just felt that he was he when even with Aleem McNeil back in the lineup, what Tyleek Williams did in the run game for the Lions was just maybe overlooked by some. And I think that he's going to continue to grow. So to me, he was just a real key piece where for that Lions defense, especially in the run game when Aleem and even Reader to some regard might have been a little bit shaky.
That pick might surprise some, but I low key kind of love it because their run defense was better when he was on the field. Most pass deflections by a defensive lineman under Dan Campbell was active, was good. I did go with Tate Ratledge. I'm sure
Yeah.
that's what you thought I was going to
Yep.
do. Starts every game, just kind of, if you go from the week one debacle in Green Bay to the end of the season, Tate
Hmm.
Ratledge has an argument for being the most improved player, which will be our last award we give out. Just how he was as a run blocker, how he meshed with Panay Sewell. I was really impressed, and I was a little concerned. Obviously, after week one, was like as like everyone, I was like, "Oh crap!" like that guy didn't even know the place. And then he was better in week two, and then it was just an upward ascent
Yeah.
from there. And I think he finished the year top 10 run blocking among all guards. Just played a ton of snaps, learned on a fly, had interior offensive line issues with the center and the left guard kind of being in and out in the lineup and struggling when he was in. But just that right side of the line did a lot of work for the
Yeah.
Lions this year. And Tate really grew down the stretch, and
Hmm.
he is
Hmm.
a mauler. And oh man, I know I hope they draft or sign a left tackle because I want to see Ratledge and Sewell continue to play next to each other. I think that'll be a really good thing in Pat Singh's offense. We'll see though. But Ratledge, my rookie of the year. Tyleek, your rookie of the year. First and second round picks. That's what you want to hear. But we're going to go to most improved player, and I think there were a lot of options for this one, but I did go with Jameson Williams. And
Mm.
I know he had 1,000 yard season last year, and I know he was great last year, but I think what we saw out of JMO and his route tree growing, the short routes, the medium routes, the intermediate routes, without the deep ball being thrown too much this year, without the deep ball really being there this year, JMO found new ways to contribute. And I think those couple of weeks where we saw him as the wide receiver one is where you saw the most growth. He's a tenacious blocker. He's built like Tayshaun Prince, but he'll throw his body at anyone. I just think the true growth as a wide receiver that we saw this year from Jameson Williams, I think three games with 7 catches, which were a career high at that point, 3 straight weeks. What you saw from him on usage and trust tree from Jared Goff was off the charts this year. So Jameson Williams is my most improved player. It was a blast watching Jamo this year. He really took a lot of steps forward that I thought would take more time to take forward, just being in the offense that he's in and the role he plays.
That's a really good one. That was actually my number 2. I flipped between him and this guy I'm about to name a lot for a lot of the reasons you said, but the one I went with, and it might be a little bit shocking to say he's the most improved, but I went with Aiden Hutchinson.
Okay.
And I know that might be like, what? We know what Aiden is. But then I just kind of just look first off, to me, Aiden just really looked like we knew he was on a defensive player of the year arc last year before he broke his leg. We knew
Yeah.
and we saw some flashes this year coming off the broke leg. To me, he just looked even better as the season went on.
Yep.
He finished the year with a career high in combined tackles, career high in sacks, career high in forced fumbles and quarterback hits, tied his career high in solo tackles and tackles for a loss. And, you can say what you want about when what games he logged these stats in and what point of the game, but the fact is that he did it. And if he did not perform this way, this season, defensively for the Lions could have went even more bleak than it already did. I just think that he just truly put himself in that conversation into being one of the best edge rushers in the league. Last year, he proved that he had the past 2 years he proved that he had the ability. This season, I think that he improved into cementing himself in that conversation. That doesn't mean I think he's going to win Defensive Player of the Year tonight, but I think that he put himself, dead. And when you talk about the Max Crosbys, the Miles Garrett's, well, the Miles Garrett's, then the Max Crosbys and the Trey Hendricksons, I think you have to go ahead and put Aiden Hutchinson in that conversation as well.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Yeah, that's what we got. We're gonna get out of here with Super Bowl predictions. There is a football game to be played this weekend. I will lead us off because I'm going against the grain. I'm taking the New England Patriots to win the Super Bowl. I It's kind of like I was with the Bears earlier this season. I kept on doubting the Bears. I just like at this point of the season, I kept on doubting not Drake May, but I just kept on doubting how much the Patriots had at this point. We'll see what happens. Seattle dealing with a late injury to their like breakout safety, Nick. I can't say his last name on the fly without it in front of me.
I can't say his name either, but I know who you're talking
I'm
about.
not looking at his name right now. You guys know who I'm talking about. But I'm taking the Patriots, and I'm going to take the Patriots 27-20. I know Mike McDonald's defense is the story this week. More than good enough to control and dominate that game. But it's just when you're not covering these teams, it's a vibe pick. I'm going with the Patriots. I think they pull off the upset. I think Mike Vrabel's a hell of a coach. I think Drake May's been an unbelievable player this year. I still think Matthew Stafford might get the MVP over him, but I am going with the Patriots.
I am going with the Seattle Seahawks. I think that, and like you said, this is just a vibes pick because we watch the game, but we don't cover these teams closely. Cover the Seahawks closely, and just Sam Darnold. I love good stories. I think the fact that this guy has been bounced around the league so many times in this short span of his career, the fact that I believe the Vikings prematurely pushed him out the door, and now that he went to the Seahawks and immediately put them in the Super Bowl, I think that he's going to go out there and he's going to play the game of his life. The defense is lights out. He has Jackson Smith. He has K9.
Yeah.
I just think that this is the perfect storm for him to go ahead and cap off one of the I believe could be the one of the best stories in the NFL in a long time. A guy that was just a journeyman, pushed out the door by a lot of teams, and he finds his footing. He finds a team that believes in him, and he's able to go ahead and lead them to a title. So that's what I'm going with in the score. I'm going to go 35-28.
All right. I like it. Two good defenses, two well coached teams. We'll see what happens. Yeah, I mean, Sam Darnold. I mean, Minnesota Vikings fired Quezzy, the GM, earlier this week, and I know his draft pedigree didn't really help him, but the whole quarterback move last year didn't help him that much either. So super interesting to see Darnold here so quickly. Yeah, it's just a vibe feel. That Patriots defense is good. I think Drake May and the offense find enough to get done, but Seattle, it wouldn't surprise me at all to see Seattle win. Well, that's all we got for you. We'll plan to get a little draft talk in this week. We will save that for next week. That's more than fine. There's still a game to be played, and we had some good mailbag questions. But we are your Dungeon of Doom podcast. I'm Ben Raven, and he is Kory Woods, and we will see you next week.
See ya.